Hi guys, good evening. Hope you guys can see me well. If you just give me a few BG so cool first. First comment. All right. I'm just going to allow a few minutes for the other persons to join. Whilst I'm doing that, let me just pull up the live chat on the computer over here. And of course, most persons would have already known that for this live chat, we're actually going to be going over the proven APO. Well, rather the prospectus for the proven APO. Of course, questions are welcome. I haven't gone through this in its entirety, so I'll do the overview. And as it relates to the management discussion and analysis, we will be reviewing that together, as well as the financial statements. All right. I will be able to actually deliver on the historical perspective on Proven, as well as their sort of like their modus operandi for these types of offers. For anyone who doesn't know, Proven actually was a special case in terms of its listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. All right, and we will talk a little bit more about that as we get deeper into the live session. You guys can see me. Let me get this positioning right. Let's see. I can't promise that, Mr. Davis. It's going to be dependent on what's happening in the markets, okay? So I'm not going to say that yes, it is. I can tell you that quite likely. All right, so Brant, thanks for the suggestion. Right now we're having some trouble in terms of the landscape view. I haven't been able to quite figure that out yet. Save highlight. So as soon as I do, then I'll get that sorted, but I haven't been able to figure it out just yet. All right. So again, bear with, okay? By the way, if you're watching this on your mobile devices, I want to think that it would actually appear better in portrait view. That's why Instagram did the whole Instagram TV thing. Don't worry, we're talking. We're talking. Okay. Let's see. It's now 5 minutes after 9. I guess we can begin officially at around. Well, it should begin officially at 9. I tend to try to keep the time. So with. It's quite okay. Okay, thanks, Paul. I sort of wanted to confirm that on mobile it's actually better. If you're on desktop, however, you'll probably have that little disorientation happening with the video. Can be a little bit disorienting, I can imagine. All right. Okay, so as usual, I'm going to start with the basic introduction to myself. For those of you who have never, or for those of you who are joining for the first time, my name is Devroy Davis. I'm an equity analyst, stock market analyst, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Caribbean Value Investor Corporation. CVI, as we like to call it, is a company, it's a media company that's focused on publications related to business, economics, and finance, as well as doing independent analysis on publicly listed companies within Jamaica and the Caribbean. That's our primary focus. However, we do feature quite a few of the companies, the more traded ones rather, on the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, as well as some on the London Stock Exchange. All right. So before I get into the video, I must offer the disclaimer that I am not a licensed financial advisor. I'm an analyst, and so everything that I will say on this live session is actually meant for information and educational purposes. It is not meant to be misconstrued as financial advice nor is it any recommendation or endorsement for any particular stock or security. All right. So with that said, hopefully we have an understanding as to what my role here this afternoon is, well, this evening, and what your expectations ought to be. Okay. So we're looking at, it's now 9:08. All right. So we're looking at the Proven APO. Now, Proven Investments Limited is actually the first company that listed on the US dollar market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. This is going to be the first time that Proven is making an offer to the general investing public. And for those who are not familiar with the history of Proven actually started in 2010, and they listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange in 2011 by way of an introduction. What that means is they did not seek to raise any capital from the market whilst they were listing the shares. They had already had the minimum requirement in terms of the amount of shareholders, as well as they had sufficient capital. Well, they had met the capital requirements for listing, and so they did what was known as a listing by introduction and not necessarily an IPO. In the JSE Securities course, thanks Paul. So guys, please like the video. It helps with the algorithm, and well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about why it's important to like the video later on, or as we go through this session. Right. So Proven is actually offering 429 ordinary shares, and these are new ordinary shares in the capital of the company, meaning this is not a situation where you have the major shareholders selling out their shares in order to raise capital or to exit. So this is not like an IPO. So the company is offering again 178,571,429 new ordinary shares in the capital of the company. They are reserving the right to actually upsize the offer by a further 50%, bringing the maximum offer to 267,857,143 ordinary shares. The subscription price is $28 or Jamaican $38.64. And that is actually at a discount to what the average weekly trading in the stock has been. I'm going to give me just a moment here. I just need to pull up the chat. All right, so the minimum offer, I'm just going over the basics here, and then we will get into the finer details of the offer. All right. The minimum that a person can actually apply for in this offer is 1,000 shares, and then you can apply in increments of 100 ordinary shares. Therefore, a person can actually get in on this offer with a minimum of, say, $40,000, inclusive of the fees. I just rounded that. It's actually $38,640 plus the $163.10 for the JSE depository fee. So if you wanted to calculate the total, that's what you would use if you're going for the minimum application. And the company will apply to have these new shares listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange as well. Now, this will have the effect of increasing the total amount of ordinary shares that are traded, or rather the total number of outstanding shares that are traded for proven investments on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. It may also have the effect of making the company a little bit more liquid in terms of the ability to trade in and out of the stock, as well as it might have somewhat of a dilutionary effect. Well, it will have a dilutionary effect. Oh, all right, K. I think I'll do that. All right. So it's also going to have a dilutionary effect on the current shareholders. All right. And that includes the majority shareholders. The offer opens on Wednesday, March 11th, 2020, and is expected to stay open for about 3 weeks, closing on Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. All right. Thereafter, the basis of allocation is expected to be announced within 10 days of the closing date. That would put it around April 9th, 2020. And that's also when you can expect for the allotment of the new ordinary shares, and also refunds of the refunds in excess of the subscription amount to be also made out to applicants. The shares are expected to be listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange again within a few weeks of the allotment, and that would be around Friday, April 24th, 2020. All right. All right. So what are we going to be talking about in this live? So hopefully we're all up to speed on the basics of the offer. I think I want to mention just briefly what the intended use of funds is before we actually get into the actual details of this offer. So before I can talk about the intended use of funds, I have to. All right. So, Peter, thanks for the question. The questions are actually coming a little bit down, as in they're disappearing off the screen. So I have to bring up the chat on my secondary device here. So if you guys will just bear with me for a moment, I'll be able to get that done fairly quickly. Let's go. Is there a discount for existing shareholders? Not that I'm aware. Really? Okay. All right, guys, just give me one moment so I can actually tether the Wi-Fi to the secondary device. Oh, so whilst I'm doing that, you guys can actually pull up the prospectus if you have it, and also you can go and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. All right. Okay, so I see a few questions and I'm going to answer them. I did mention them at the beginning of the live, but I'll just repeat them. For K, she asks, what's the difference between an IPO and an APO? An IPO is an initial public offer. This is the first time that the company is seeking to raise funds from the investing public and list on the stock market or the stock exchange. So it's two things. Good evening, Mr. McLeod. So it would be the first time that the company is seeking to raise funds from the investing public and list on the stock market. An APO, on the other hand, is where a company is offering additional shares to the investing public, and this would be from a company that is already listed on the stock exchange. All right. Good evening, Chevron. And good evening, Neo Salty. Guys, please let me know if you can actually see me. I got a reconnecting issue just now. So if you guys could just put in the chat yes or no. I'm seeing the questions, but I'm not able to tell. Okay. Thanks, Shaquille. Thanks, Miyosoti. Let me mute this. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, guys. So, I can see Murphy is playing his hand tonight as well. So let's see how quickly we can actually get right. So let's see how quickly we can actually get through just the key aspects of this APO. All right. I highly encourage you to actually read the disclaimer on page 8, talking about the advisory on the forward-looking statements, right? That will be important going forward in terms of you assessing your assessing your expectations of this IPO. So the lead arranger, and I saw somebody ask this question earlier, but the lead arranger for the Proven Investments Limited APO is Proven Wealth Management. Well, Proven Wealth Limited. Proven Wealth is a subsidiary of it's not a subsidiary, I should correct myself. Proven Wealth is a separate company from Proven Investments Limited, okay? Proven Investments Limited is the international business company that is incorporated in St. Lucia, and underneath it comes, well, quite a few of the subsidiaries for Proven. So you have Proven REIT, there's Real Properties Limited, Bustle Bank, which is a bank that they bought in 2018 in I think it's Bermuda. Is a 75% owned subsidiary. Access Financial is another company that they have a 24.7% ownership stake in. Previously, they actually held, I think it was 49% of Access Financial, but they sold down some of their position in order to actually take advantage of JMMB's APO. So what JMMB's APO would have caused Proven's stake to actually fall below the 20% that they had initially acquired. And so what they did was they sold out some of their shares in Access Financial, and they sold these to the general public in order to use some of those funds to okay. Guys, please, let me apologize for the consistent interruptions. They're actually arising from the connection. And I'm not sure exactly what's causing that. Like, I bought a significant amount of data today, so I'm fairly certain that it's not the data that is a problem. It's perhaps just a network. All right. So bear with me. All right. What was I talking about? So I was talking about the lead arranger. So the lead arranger is Proven Wealth Limited, and Sagicor Investments is serving as the co-arranger and co-broker, as well as the underwriter for this offer. Sagicor Investments is actually underwriting the offer up to $50 million US. The total offer would yield, or the total capital raise, would be around 75 million US dollars if you converted just the Jamaican dollars and considered the US dollar portion as well. So if you just use the US dollar as the currency in which the applications are made, the total capital raise would be around $75 million. Oh, so the purpose of underwriting is basically to offer some level of insurance. What I mean by that is, if for example the company fails to raise the total 75 million, then the fact that they are underwritten up to 50 million will mean that they would have been quote unquote guaranteed that $50 million in terms of the capital raise, and so they would be able to execute whatever plans they had originally stated within the prospectus. Speaking about plans within the prospectus doesn't state exactly what, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't state exactly. It doesn't state specifically what Proven Investments plans to do with the capital that they're going to be raising in this APO. What it says on page 13 is that they currently have an extensive pipeline of investments spanning their three primary business strategies, and these one moment guys, I'm just putting a note here. Thanks, BG. Okay, so I'm going to actually pin this. You should probably restart your device. I'm actually using the cell phone, so the device I don't think is a problem. I think it's just it maintaining the connection to YouTube servers that's more likely the problem. And I'm going. Alright, so I'm going to resume now, talking about what the intended use of funds is. I have some idea, but I'm not going to speculate as to what Proven is going to be using these funds for. Alright? I can understand that there is a strategic advantage in not saying exactly what the plans for the funds are, and so they're basically relying on us, the shareholders or the prospective shareholders, to trust them based on their track record of effectively deploying capital in profitable business ventures. Okay? So what they said is that for the reasons for the invitation and the use of proceeds, now Proven Investments is a private equity firm whose primary strategy is to acquire, grow, and extract value from its portfolio of investments. Our fundamental objective is to continue to provide above average returns over the medium to long term for Proven Investments. Okay, Graham. For Proven Investment shareholders. And guys, I'll stop intermittently because I have to be peering over to my right in order to see the comments from the chat. Alright? So what they're saying is that the invitation will give them the ability to pursue these and other opportunities while ensuring that the company maintains a balanced capital structure. By that, they mean that they want the company to have a fairly balanced amount on their books in terms of cash as well as equity, or rather long-term assets. Okay, all right, so hopefully that covers all of the basics of the offer. If you guys have any questions about just the structure of the offer, then you feel free to put them in the chat. I'll see them and I'll come back to them afterwards. But what we're going to segue into now is to actually look a little bit at the history of Proven Investments. Okay, Shaquille. All right, I'll comment on that afterwards. Shaquille is asking, concerning the underwriting matter, can you comment on how this is advantageous for the underwriter? All right, and like I said, I'll get back to that. Now, proven investments, we're talking a little bit about the history of proven and some of the investments that they've made. What I want to do in talking about this is to actually set up the frame of reference for new investors who may not have been familiar with proven investments and their activities since they have been listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. As I said earlier, Proven Investments was introduced on the Jamaica Stock Exchange in 2011, just 1 year after they actually had their the company form, which was in 2010. The company was formed by a capital raise through a private placement of around 20 million. What's that? Yeah, 20 million US dollars. There are subsequent to that, they did a rights issue and the company was able to make some strategic investments. I recall the company actually making a strategic investment in Knutsford Express I think it was a few months after Knutsford Express listed on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. I think I'm going to try to find the actual article because I don't want to misquote what the purchase price per share was and what the percentage stake that Proven had taken in Knutsford was. So I'm literally going to Google and searching Proven Invest in Knutsford. I know it was somewhere about 2015, 2016. Knutsford Express. And I also know that they have since exited that position. (2014). Okay, so this was in November of 2014 that they actually made that investment in Knutsford Express. And at that time, the stake was, the investment that they had made was around 1 million US dollars. That converted at the time was around 115 million Jamaican dollars. All right. And Proven also acted as the lead arranger to Knutsford Express listing on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange in 2014. So it was within the same year. First, they had acquired a 10% stake, which was equivalent to around 10.2 million shares. And then they increased their holding to 15% as of September 2014. I'm not sure if you guys know, but Knutsford Express, since listing in 2014, has recorded higher revenues and higher profits every single year it has been listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Their last, what's the word I'm looking for? The last initiative that Knutsford Express actually undertook was to invest in a bus company in South Florida. And that, by the way, Knutsford Express is actually on my top 10 list of stocks for, or my top 10 companies for 2020. Again, that's not an endorsement for Knutsford Express. I've just been watching the company and I've noticed that their modus operandi is to reinvest funds into the company in order to raise revenues and to raise net profits year over year. A significant portion of the company's earnings tends to be reinvested in it. For the last investment, I do believe they had actually done a bond issue, as well as they had taken on some additional debt in order to fund the transaction. This time, I believe the company invested around 4 times their net income. And I'm doing an analysis on Knutsford Express using Aswat Damodaran's methodology for valuing a company. And the reason I'm using Aswat's methodology is because there is a lot of qualitative factors that I don't think are properly accounted for in valuing Nutsword Express. And the same could be said for a lot of the other companies on the junior market. All right. So I will be publishing that article on Caribbean Value Investors website, as well as I think I will do a short video explaining the process of finding the quote unquote the intrinsic value using ASWAT's procedure, as well as using the typical discounted cash flow methodology of valuing a company. So that's that. All right. Proven Investments had also invested in Access Financial Services. I talked about that earlier, as well as I talked about the yes, that's true. They do have quite a bit of billboards along the north-south highway. They have also made an investment in Bustle Bank, which I talked about earlier, and some of their non-public investments include their stake in Dream Entertainment Limited. These are the people who put on the Dream Weekend series of parties. What else do I want to say about Proven Investments and their history? I guess there's not much to say about them except for the fact that they have consistently been a profitable company and one that has been able to increase shareholder value, I believe, to a factor of around 6 times now since they've come on the market. And we'll look at that a little bit more in detail when we look at the management discussion and analysis, as well as the company's pro forma and audited financial statements, at least the last ones that they put out. Alright. You think so, Jervis? Jervis is saying that Dream Entertainment might go public eventually. I wouldn't put it past the Proven team. I'm not sure on what a particular timeline for it might be. All right. So I want to make also a correction. Proven Wealth Limited is actually a subsidiary of Proven Investments Limited. I originally had said that it was an offshoot company, but to correct myself, it's actually a 100% owned subsidiary of the company, and they are acting as the lead arranger and lead brokers for the APO. All right. On page 21 of the prospectus. Good evening, Reza. On page 21 of the prospectus, you can actually see a profile of the directors. I'm not going to go through that. Most of you would have already been familiar with my 7-pillar method of analyzing. CFA. All right, guys. So we're back. Again, if you guys missed it, I'd apologize for the technical difficulty and the intermittent nature of the live session. I'm not entirely sure exactly what is causing it, but hopefully we can have a more consistent stream going forward. So what I want to talk about now, so I mentioned that we would be talking about the APO, we'd be talking about the history of Proven, as well as some of the strategic investments that they've made. What I want to segue into now is to look at the current and the historical financial data for Proven Investments. So we're going to be looking chiefly at Proven Investments Limited statement of financial position, that's their balance sheet, the statement of profit and loss, or the comprehensive income statement, as well as the changes in shareholder equity. Okay, so for the financial year ended March 2019, Proven Investments Limited had total assets amounting to 625.9 million US dollars. Now this represents a close to 100% increase since their it's more than 100% since their initial listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, but it's about 80% higher than what they recorded just 4 years earlier in March 2015. At that time, the company's total assets were recorded as 364.35 million US dollars. What you will notice is a consistent trend in terms of an improvement in the company's total assets, with the only exception being 2018, when the total assets dropped from 633.3 million US dollars down to 576.9 million dollars. All right, and thanks, Miasoti. That is on page 26. Okay, I don't see anything definitive in the prospectus about debt. How are they where debt is concerned? Okay, so looking at the balance sheet, let's look at where the company's liabilities stand. And given the nature of Proven's business, I do not expect that Proven will have any significant debts. And the reason for that is because